it's Meg. Welcome back to my channel. So today's junk journal with me, I'm going to be doing the prompt of stamps for Junk Journal July. Now, my initial thought when I thought of stamps was postage stamps, but then I thought of the very literal supply of stamps. I don't know why that didn't occur to me at first. My brain just went straight to postage stamps. So then I thought, well, maybe I can just do both. So I gathered some postage stamps that I'm going to use backwards within this spread as some collage material, and then I just also had a few of my favourite stamps. I didn't actually get around to using them all, and I completely forgot to use my date stamp to stamp the date on this page, so maybe I'll go back and do that. But I thought it would be fun to upcycle this envelope here by adding some stamping. So I sort of interpreted the prompt in a few different ways within this spread. I had the stamping here onto some collage papers. I also then used the reverse of some postage stamps, and I also then added my text in a stamp as well, as you'll see in a moment. So there was just so many different ways that I stamped with on this page, and that's kind of what I was going for here, but I just used the one ink pad. Now, if you've seen some of my videos before, you'll probably recognize the little ink pad that I'm using. It's my absolute favorite. It's in a vintage sepia. It's by the brand Versafine, and I have had this little thing for, I would say, like 3 years now, and it gets like a good amount of use and it's still going strong. It's my favorite color of stamp because it's not too harsh on the pages that I use it on. So when you stamp and it's black, I find that quite harsh on the color palette that I'm using. So having a sepia toned stamp, I think, goes a lot nicer, and especially if you're using it within backgrounds like I am, it just blends in a lot more seamlessly. So that was perfect for using within this page because, of course, I kept things neutral with the color scheme that I had going on here. So the postage stamps, that was my initial thought, I ended up using those as a bit of like background collage and just a way to add interest to the page. So I turned them upside down because the colours on them weren't really something that I wanted on the page. I did want to keep things neutral, like I said, and there wasn't anything interesting, like, you know how stamps sometimes have like a nice butterfly or a flower or just something interesting going on. These weren't that at all. They were just sort of leftover ones that I've picked all the good ones, and these were the poor little stamps that were left over, but I didn't want them to go to waste. So turning them over just makes them into some collage papers, and you still get the interest of the edges of the stamp. And I really liked the way that I added a couple of those clustered there, so it's not immediately obvious that they are even stamps, but I know that they're there as part of the prompt of stamps. So the stamps, I think, didn't completely take over the page, even though it was something I was doing throughout, and I think that's just the balance of having a couple of different techniques going on with how I was adding the stamps. So the collage stamps, the stamps as a background on a material, so it was almost more like I was painting with the stamps, I guess you could kind of compare it to, because I wasn't stamping with the intent of being able to see like a crisp image of the stamp. It was much more a background element and just a way of adding the detail to the page, and then using my text stamp at the end as the crisp stamp that I did mind if I could actually read the text that was on the stamp. I was actually really pleased with how neatly the little phrase stamp actually fit onto the journal spot that I had there, because as I added it to the page, I almost thought, oh, is it like slightly too long? But it was just the perfect fit, and I love when that happens on a page. Now, I am doing some more stamping here, and this is a case of me not knowing when to stop. So I've left it in for full transparency to show you the full process. However, you'll notice that I do end up covering this up and doing my little test stamp on the other sheet of this little journal spot papers actually came in handy, because I ended up just sticking it over the top, and probably if I'd have cut this part out, you'd never have known really that that was underneath, and that's what happened. But I decided to leave it in just to show you what happens when you get carried away, because sometimes I don't know when to stop, clearly. I added all those bits and I just thought it looks so cluttered, and it really detracted from the lovely stamp that I had going on there. So rather than panicking about it, I simply covered it up, and I think that's one of the joys of journaling, is that if you do something you don't like, you can always just cover it up and move on and pretend like it never happened. And I think I actually got away with it quite well, and you can't really tell, I don't think, that it's under there. Maybe if you looked really, really closely, but like who's going to look really closely anyway? So I wanted to add some white pen details here just because everything was kind of the same color. I just needed a little bit of contrast, I think, on the page, and this really helped to brighten it up and just bring in those corners a little bit so that the whole page was included within this spread. And then that is the final double page spread for the prompt of stamps. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and the browns and almost a reddish tone that I've got going on. So I hope you enjoyed journaling along with me today. Let me know what you did for this prompt.